As 2024 comes to a close, I'm taking a step back and reflecting on the last year of my investing journey, and what a year it has been. From taking a giant leap and entering into covered call ETFs to overcoming what I felt was an insurmountable amount of information as a beginner investor, it's been a year of growth, lessons, and challenges. But it's not just all about the numbers, it's about my mindset shift, some of the pivots in my strategy that I had to make, and some of those aha moments that changed how I approach investing. And I'll be walking you through my reflection on the last year with some of the milestones that I achieved and things that I didn't even think were possible 12 months ago. So grab your toque, a few Timbits, and your favorite coffee, and let's dive into reflecting on the crazy Canuck investor over the last year, and maybe even inspired a few of you along the way. Let's dive in. But of course, there's always more to talk about when I'm introducing my videos, and in this case I have some great news that I'm going to tell you all about after I reflect on my year, so stick around because you're not going to want to miss this amazing news that I have to share with you guys. Alright, so let me start off by saying Happy New Year and happy belated holidays. Let's face it, the holidays are some of the busiest times for many of us, so for me, it's really been no different, but I have been thoroughly enjoying myself. We've done everything from our traditional Christmas to dinner where I smoked a turkey, and obviously we've been out and very busy. We were skiing the other day, we've been tubing, we've been taking advantage of all of the winter activities that are near us. But one activity that we took of that really played into my investing strategy was taking some time to go up in the mountains, which is about 25 minutes from here, and it did not cost us a cent other than my time. Because let's face it, the ski trip we went on, it was rather expensive. And I grew up skiing and I love skiing. But for me, this opportunity was amazing because I finally had my entire family skiing with me, and I've been waiting for this for a very, very long time. So I hope that you guys have had the opportunity to enjoy the holidays. All right, so let's jump into looking at my year of investing, because there's been so many things that I've gone through. So as you know, the channel, if you've been following me, has started in April of 2023. And in that first from April to December period of time, I was just learning how to be a YouTuber, but also learning how to be an investor, because it all started at the same time. If you go back to that very first video, which even when I watch it, I kind of laugh because it is not as good a quality as the ones I put out now, but that's how most YouTubers start out. So my journey is paired. My YouTube journey follows my investing journey. And I consider it almost like a vlog channel in some ways, where I get to share with you guys. And like I said in my intro, hopefully influence some of you. So from the beginning of this year to now, the portfolio has grown a lot. Some of the things that were done, for instance, I opened my Wealthsimple account to start all this off. I opened up our savings account. So that was my emergency fund. And I've had a number of questions about that recently. Why do I have so much money sitting in that Wealthsimple cash account, earning what some people it seems like very little money? Well, the first thing that I learned about investing is that you want to have some sort of emergency fund. So let's say you lose your job, or all of a sudden you become money strapped in some way. You got to have some money kicking around. So I established that with Wealthsimple. And in the beginning, there was some fluctuations in that amount of money till I established how much money that should be. So what's sitting in that account currently is what we would need, and it earns a small amount of interest. But to answer the viewers' questions, at the end of the day, I need that money to be liquid. I don't want it to be invested in a security that all of a sudden I need and I have to sell, because if that's the day that that security is down, I'm definitely going to lose some money on it. At least this way I'm guaranteeing I have that amount of money ready to rock and roll. The other thing that we took care of is we paid off all our debt. So the only debt that we currently have is the mortgage on our house. Now, most of you are looking at me, if you've been following me, that I'm 51, so that shouldn't be much of a big deal. But it makes me reflect way back when I was younger, when I used to spend money. How many of you did this? I did it. I walked into a motorcycle place when I was in my early 20s, and I dropped a whole bunch of money on a motorcycle that I ended up not really using much and selling a few years later. That money, had I have taken it and invested it back then, say it was $30,000, plug that into a compound calculator and see what that looks like when it comes to retirement. So that leads me to the other reflecting lesson, which is small changes in your spending habits doesn't have to sacrifice how happy you are in what you do. So by making small adjustments in your spending habits, that money will grow so much further. And if you start much earlier than I did, if you're even a teenager, or maybe for some reason, like my kids are 10 and 11, and maybe they get the idea that they want to start this. And that money will grow so much over time. So don't make that. For me, that was a huge lesson to come away from this year. All right, so having an emergency fund set up and all our debts paid off, the next step was to figure out how to get all our money in one place, and I chose Wealthsimple as the primary broker that I'm using because I believed it was the best thing for beginners to use. And I'm not suggesting that it's for everybody, and at some point we may have to make some changes to that, but as a beginner, I thought it was a great place to start because it encompasses so many parts of your financial picture, which is to have your, you can make your payments, you can interact e-transfer, you can take money out of bank accounts and they'll reimburse you the money. I did a whole video on that stuff so you can learn all about it, learning about what Wealthsimple is all about. But for me, Wealthsimple was a great place to start. So I moved most of our accounts with the exception of one. That account is held with Questrade, and that's because I couldn't manage a spousal RRSP with Wealthsimple. They didn't allow it. They do now, which if you're following me along, this is my introduction to my new series on covered call ETFs. I just opened this account up very recently and started working on a covered call strategy within that particular account within Wealthsimple. So episode 1 came out a couple of weeks ago, so go check that out. It's on HYLD. You can't miss it. And I'll be working on the next one to come out very soon. So that other spousal account is sitting over at Questrade right now, and eventually if they ever offer it up where I could transfer it, I will, but for now that's where it's going to stay. So with all the accounts settled, we moved all our money over and boom, we had our account growing. And basically in the beginning of the year, I had to figure out what my asset allocation was. Again, another video that I did. What did that mean? So I set up my asset allocation. And leading up until the end of this year, which is my monthly update, which is also the one for the end of the year, which I'm shooting today and will have out very soon, I'm actually making my big changes because it's the end of the year when I want to rebalance the account based on my asset allocation. So watch for that because it's going to be coming out very soon. All right, life of a YouTuber. So midstream, when I was recording the last snippet of information, I went around to shut the phone off, which is what I currently use to record all of my videos. And guess what? My phone said that it was full. So I had to go in and delete a whole bunch of information because I film in 4K, and of course it takes up a lot of gigabytes. But what I found is the YouTube app, because when you upload things, it actually stores information, and unfortunately had many, many gigabytes of information, so I had to actually delete it. I can actually put it back on my phone in a little bit afterwards, but I've created a bunch of space because I got rid of it. So there you go, midstream of me shooting this. This is reality. This is what it's like to be a YouTuber and the Crazy Canuck investor. So let's get on with the show. All right, so one of the big things was we got the cash account set up, we paid off the debts, we got all the money moved into Wealthsimple, which is what I believe is the best broker for a beginner. The next thing was to get that TFSA working, and what that means for me was having that money available to us because it's after-tax dollars and it grows tax-free within the account, so I can actually access that information sooner than I could if it was in my RRSP. Now, that may not work for many of you, but in our case, it does. So what I've done is I've also set up the brand new account, which is the spousal RRSP with Wealthsimple. Now, what does that mean? If you're new here or you don't know what that is simply me investing into the RRSP. I get the tax credit, and then the money is drawn out later by my wife at a little bit lower tax bracket. So you're essentially splitting the amount of income that you make. So we had that tax-free account set up. And if you watch all my videos, that's what the main focus of the channel is. I go over in every video where everything sits within that profile. The cash account, TFSA, my RRSP, the new spousal RRSP, and finally the kids RESP, because if you have kids like me, you'll want to get them set up. And I'll say it over and over again. I've said it so many times, but I started this channel because I realized what I had done wrong so many years ago is spending money on things I shouldn't have. That another big lesson I learned is you don't have to change your lifestyle. It's just about making different spending habit changes. And I'll give you a great example of that. So one of the things that I did, and if you watch my videos, you'll see me talk about it, is I take my lunch to work. And I'm not sure if many of you do that. If you don't, and it makes you feel better to buy your lunch, so be it. But for me, it's easy because we always have leftovers from the day before, and I prep my meals. It's easy for me. I can get up, take my lunch, and off I go. But recently I was in a bit of a hurry and I forgot to take the lunch I prepared, and I had to buy lunch. And ironically, I felt so guilty about having to go to the grocery store because some of the prices these days, as we all can attest to here in Canada, it's not cheap if you go to certain places. And this grocery store was not a mainstream grocery store, it was this very small one. And it was super expensive, and I felt so guilty about having to do this. So I actually took a step to make sure that at this particular place of work, I have some food available to me in the event that that should happen again, because by making that choice, I can then take whatever that money was I would have normally bought my lunch with, invested it, and had it grow. Which brings me to milestone. The biggest milestone is the fact that I was able to invest over $25,000 this year. And you know, I've got a few things going on in my videos where I have my kids' investing account and now this brand new covered call ETF portfolio that we're building. But in there, both of my kids' practice portfolio and my this covered call one that I'm working on is designed to show you that you don't have to put a great deal of money into these accounts. So we're starting off small in that covered call one. It's $5 a day. And in the other one, it's once a week with increasing amounts up to $25. And you'll be able to see that it's very easy. And I don't want you to think that just because I put so much money into my accounts, it has to be that way. It doesn't. It has to be something that you feel comfortable with and that will get you motivated to get your money growing, even if it's a small amount. So here's another key thing that I came across in my tool of tricks, if you will, or my toolbox, was that I had access to the Enriched Academy. Now, the Enriched Academy doesn't support this channel. I don't get paid by them. There's no sponsorship or anything. But Enriched Academy actually provides, through my place of work, access to their website platform, which is all finance related. Everything from budgeting to retirement planning. And they also have live stream courses that you can take. And I found it very, very helpful. The online calculators are one of the biggest things that I use. I have used them in a few previous videos. All right, guys, I was driving to an appointment while I was editing my review on 2024, and I completely forgot to talk about Blossom Social. It has been a huge influence on me, both positive and negative, because it is a social media based platform, but there is a lot of great information contained in there, both for if you're a pro user like where I am and I'm able to track my portfolio so you guys can see it. So if you're not on Blossom Social, check out the video link below. You can use my link and get hooked up into Blossom, but there's definitely lots of good stuff to learn over there, even from those that make comments that are maybe a bit offside or not in line with your investing strategy. The fact is that not everybody's going to see everything the same, and it'll certainly make you think and generates conversation. Blossom Social, I have to add, have been absolutely amazing to me this year. I had a hiccup with their app, and they actually went and comped me the entire year because of the issue that I went through, which was absolutely phenomenal. So I really appreciate that, and a shout out to Blossom Social. And I actually did an entire video on it, which will pop up on the screen while I'm talking here. One of the other big things about this year when I reflect on the year is getting in a regular pattern. So for me, it's every 2 weeks when I get paid. And so every 2 weeks, I have a set amount of money that I'm investing and watching that money grow over time. And that's such a great feeling to see your portfolio growing. And of course, when you have under $100,000, I've learned that it's not quickly growing as much as it would be after $100,000. But keep in mind, I'm 51, so had I have done this earlier in life, I might be standing here telling you that my portfolio is worth $500,000 or more. But I'm not, because I made some poor decisions back then, and now I'm trying to work on correcting that. And of course, I've set goals up in order to get us where we need to be in retirement, and that calculated through Enriched Academy, and I'm sure you could find one online and that's very easy to use. It wouldn't cost you anything because the name of the game is to cut costs wherever you can. But in order to get to that end goal, I had to come up with some investing strategies that would get us there. And I'm pleased to say that we're well on our way to getting there. So the goal is to have $500,000 invested. I think we're far going to exceed that at this point. But at this point, we are 65% of the way there. And of course, each time I invest more and each month it continues to grow, which is absolutely fantastic to see. All right, so prior to shooting this video, I started doing a little bit of research on dividends, and dividends are an incredibly hot topic. If you ask a lot of people, they are very, very passionate about their dividends. But I've also been hearing some vibes that dividends might be irrelevant in the grand scheme of investing. Now, this is coming from a total beginner. Okay, maybe I'm not a total beginner anymore, but I'm certainly not a intermediate or advanced investor just yet. But the research that I've done tells me that dividends might be irrelevant, so maybe we'll talk about that in 2025. So to date, a big milestone for me is that I've earned $15,000 in dividends with this particular portfolio, and as you know, it's sitting at about $300,000+ to date. That first $100,000 is kind of hard to get yourself going with, but after that $100,000, things really start to snowball, and that's where we are right now. Now imagine if I had done this a really long time ago, things would probably be a lot different. Now I've talked a lot about Wealthsimple, about passive, and if you saw my recent video, and if you haven't, go check it out, I talked about the switch from the big bank to the new bank we have, which is EQ Bank. I have links to the video description below for Wealthsimple, EQ Bank, and passive. If you're looking for a way to support the channel, it's a great way to do it. It doesn't cost you anything, especially if you want to use these. All you do is click on the link and use my referral code. But of course, I do have that big news that I'm going to tell you about, which will also help you support my channel. Of course, my investing journey is linked to my YouTube journey. The YouTube journey is absolutely something that is almost as insurmountable as the information I'm learning in investing. YouTube is quite a grind, and I'm sure you've heard that from some other creators, but even learning to stand in front of the camera and talk to you guys like I'm speaking directly to you is, that's a bit of an art in itself, but I've actually grown accustomed to it because I'm at, 19 months or so now. And of course, some of the things that I've gone through is when I started my videos, they were voiceless and faceless. All I did was show the information, thinking that that would be the best way. But at the end of the day, I think that some of you appreciate the descriptions that come along and the emotions, connecting with me as a person, as though you were here speaking with me. YouTube could also be a bit of a money pit as well. And of course, I had to start off with little to no investing because I didn't want to put any money into this as far as equipment goes. If you watch a lot of YouTube startup video channels, you'll see them saying, you could buy this and it will enhance your quality. So I did a video last year on sort of reflecting, and it didn't get very many views. I think it got like 89 views or something like that. But in that video, I switched from my persona of the crazy Canuck investor wearing the Canadian ball cap and the Canadian red shirt and all that to just introducing me as a person. And I got a lot of comments back saying that that's more genuine. And so that's why you see me as you do today. I thought having a persona was a good thing, but evidently that wasn't necessarily the best way to be on YouTube. Secondary to that is I shoot all of these videos with my cell phone. So I have an iPhone 15 and it shoots in 4K. But of course, while I was shooting this video, I ran into some memory issues. Hopefully over the next 20-25 year, perhaps we'll see some from referrals and people supporting the channel, which by the way, you can do by buying me a coffee as well if you're not interested in using the links. So if there is some steady income into the channel at this point, I do want to reinvest it into some quality audio, perhaps a teleprompter, maybe a few more tripods and things of that nature. But of course, right now, I've literally invested my time, and I think the max amount of money I spent might have been $150. Now, one of the big things that I do have to do is edit the videos, and that tends to take the longest. And so I do use, I was using CapCut. That was the video editing software that I was using. Unfortunately, CapCut went from a free use to mostly paid. And mid video editing about 2 or 3 videos ago, this happened. So I had to immediately find a new video editing software, which is now DaVinci Resolve. But of course, you'll see some drastic differences in the videos that I was producing because now I have to find some audio, and if I want the full version of DaVinci Resolve, which in its free version is good, I have to pay a subscription fee, which I believe is about $300. It's a one-time fee. Again, I don't want to make those investments just yet, but I actually liked having the quality of videos and improving on them each time. But of course, over the last 2 or 3 videos, I've had to learn how to use this new software. So that goes right along with reflecting on my last year because it's part of my YouTube journey and my financing and investing journey. So hopefully over the next year, we're going to see a lot of new things that I will be able to improve on when it comes to the video quality and the information that I'm sharing with you guys. So this channel would not be possible without all of you who view the channel every single day. And I'll show the stats as I'm talking here on the screen, but this channel has gone from something that's absolutely nothing to monetized, and that's my big news. Is I'm absolutely over the moon about the fact that I achieved this goal, because I'll be honest with you, I didn't even think that it was possible. I'm not a finance person, and this is definitely not the niche I probably should have started in. But I enjoy making the videos and sharing my journey with you, and that's why I say this is probably more like a vlog. I'm not here to teach you things, I'm just here to share the experience. But through that, we've managed to garner over 1,000 subscribers, which is one of the keys to monetization. 1,300 subscribers. And of course you need 4,000 watch hours. And believe it or not, that came to me right at Christmas. So what a great Christmas gift to get is you guys have watched over 4,000 hours of my videos. And of course, when you reach these milestones, then of course the channel becomes monetized. And by you watching my channel now, I actually get a small amount of money through AdSense. And to be honest with you, it's not a great deal. You guys will laugh. I'll share it with you here on the screen. But for the 3 or 4 days that I've been monetized and I haven't released a new video, this will actually be the first one that I put out that you guys will watch. The AdSense revenue is a total of about $2.23 Canadian. Yes, but for me, it was such a big deal. I was so excited to wake up in the morning and see that I had been monetized because you guys take the time to watch. So in my introduction, I said that hopefully there's some influence that you're getting from me sharing all this information with you. All right, now let's talk about what 2025 will bring. 2024 was great. The whole thing with Trump made my portfolio, as is I'm sure some of you, it blew up, right? That was a big change. I didn't expect that. That was fantastic. I've got my groundwork laid as far as being a beginner investor. I have a system down now. What's 2025 going to look like? Well, in general, there's some things that I really want to accomplish. So we've started this new covered call ETF in this spousal account. And of course, I'm going to build that up from scratch. I'm going to start adding some other securities to it to build this up. And we're going to see how that performs. The whole goal of this series is to talk about covered call ETFs to see if they perform well against their underlying holdings, whether they're worth it in the long run, and what kind of money we can generate. Because as you know, in like 9 years or so, I'm going to retire, and that may be a strategy that might work, but I want to test it now and see if it works. So we're going to continue down that because we've only had episode 1, so stay tuned for episode 2, and we'll see where things are with that. As far as investing goes further down into 2025, I am going to try to max out that TFSA. I want to see if we can get it maxed right out. I'm not sure if it's possible because we only did $25,000 into it this year, but you never know, we might be able to maximize that in the year coming depending on secondary streams of income, whether I work overtime or the case may be. So that would be goal number 2, is to maximize that TFA as best as possible and see if we can get her maxed right out. The other thing I want to do is I want to learn a lot more about some single stock picking. Now, I'm focused on ETFs, so if you look at the videos, you'll see how I'm transitioning from what I originally started with to sort of consolidating that down now, and we're focusing on some broad-based ETFs because so far my research and my learning has taught me that this is the best way with low cost indices in order to see that money grow. But it doesn't mean that there isn't some opportunity in single stock positions. It just means I need to learn more. And just learning about those is a lot of work. So that's one of the goals I want to work on this year, is to learn a little bit more about single stock positions. So I think those are some pretty lofty goals to try and take on during 2025. And of course, I'll also be working on the YouTube side of things. Now, if you're brand new to investing and you're not really too sure where to start, what I did when I started out is I started watching some people like myself from the very beginning of their journey, no matter how bad their videos are. So if you start watching this playlist right here, it'll get you started.